Hey, 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 Welcome to the 12-Step Buddhist Podcast, episode 36. I vow to not take intoxicants. Darren Littlejohn reporting live from San Diego. Well, live to me in this moment, live to you. I'm alive, you're alive. My teacher is passing. I just got word. I had a dream of this about a month or so ago. And in Tibetan Buddhism, we do a lot with dream yoga. And my teacher has often taught us about dreams he's had. They're called terma teachings, where he received teachings from his teacher who had passed. So, in effect, Shogal Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche taught us in advance how to deal with his passing when it happens, and I've always known. In fact, he was, according to his Tibetan astrologers and other lamas who had done the predictions for him, he was supposed to have passed, I forget when, but I think maybe in his 50s or something. His 40s, late 40s, something like that. And he did have some serious health issues, and did some serious practices, which, if you watch the film My Reincarnation, you'll see how that all went down. But he had extended his life to carry the teachings to us. So this has been, let's see, November 2006 is when I started. And he was on borrowed time then, and he told us. So we've always kind of had this knowledge, but I've met him several times in person and over email over the years, and then of course through the essential practice of Guru Yoga, through his Dzogchen Sutra and Tantra transmissions, which are alive and will remain alive with practice. So that's happening, and I woke up with a pretty serious PTSD today, and it was about as rough as it gets. So I had to do some practice, and I was trying to, I talked to my shaman, and she said, do your practice. I said, okay, right, to practice, check. It's hard to think of these things, when you're in the midst of it, but I woke up sobbing, deep pain, just uncontrollable. And it's been a fairly rough Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I woke up with bugs last week. I don't know what the fuck that is, but the landlady that I rent a room from says, oh, well, we had these a few years ago. You must have brought them back in. I'm like, what are you talking about? She apparently had to, morning. She apparently had to throw out all the mattresses and everything. So anyways, then of course she wants me to pay for the treatment, and then she wants me to buy a new mattress, and I'm like, what is your I'm like, no, I got a lawyer. So now I have to deal. So I have this stress where I live, So then I went and applied for an apartment, and was rejected because my credit score is 573, which is, I guess, is low. And there was a bill on there for the light bill, and that was due to something my ex-wife had left me with. She basically had kicked me in the street and left me. All the bills were in my name, and she would never pay any of it. So, I mean, she makes a ton of money. So I texted her and I said, hey, could you cover at least half of this, And she gave me some narcissistic, just complete mental, so the answer was no. It's interesting because if you look there's a lady who's doing her dissertation on narcissistic abuse on Instagram. And she has a post today about the narcissist blaming you for, they do shit to you, and then they blame, then they're the victim somehow. How is it that they're the victim? So it was interesting timing, because this is exactly what happened. That somehow I made the divorce a game and miserable and everything. So this was Friday morning, and then I'd been seeing a girl who, she's kind of with someone, but she said she's not going to be, and she's kind of transition. She's just waiting to finish school. And so I had this very deep and powerful connection with her, which is always a red flag, Darren. Dear self, red flag. If you feel really intense and super great, run, go the other way. And I don't, of course, because I'm a good addict, and basically I just go in deeper, and I go, well, I know this is a bad idea, but I'm going to go in deeper, because that's how my addict brain works. And I wrote about this pretty honestly in the Yoga of Self-Compassion, just as simple, my example of being addicted with 20 years sober, and how to practice self-acceptance and be in the aliveness of the present moment. Embody the teachings and transmissions and initiations and all the work, and the ancestors and the lineages. Embody it. Do the practice. So, I try to be in the solution. And so working on the yoga of being a badass, I woke up this morning with this trauma. And it would have, a year ago, I would have been sobbing all day. I would have been talking to anyone who would listen. Anyone, anywhere, who would listen just to cope. So, I'm in a much better place. The healing is happening. The practices work. It just takes diligence. It takes time. It takes years. It takes commitment. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. I don't really have too much Sangha, honestly. You guys are my Sangha. People who read what I write and then come back to me and say these just powerful, transformative things about how the work has affected them. And, so that's, I've got my Sangha, I've got my teachers community, but it's international. It's really mostly overseas. It's really mostly Russia and Europe. So there's a few scattered in the States, but at any rate, vow to not take intoxicants. So the intoxicant level, my old sponsor, John Peterson, who, I don't know, last time I saw him, he was in dementia. I don't know what happened to him. I lost touch, but he used to say to me, when are you going to quit getting high? This is like 91. He would say, when are you going to quit getting high on women, And, vow to not take intoxicants, not to participate in the addictive process of, people, places, and things, But I get high, and I have a spiritual shift, and I have a profound transformation. And this girl sent me a video one night. I didn't hear from her all week. And then she sent me a video and said, I hope you enjoy the video. Bye. And I'm like, okay. And I look at the video, and it's a TED Talk, and something on child rape or something. And I'm like, so I saw her the next day. We went to the water park, and I was like, why did you send me that video? Oh, I study that topic. I study those things. Okay, well, did this happen to you? Well, of course it happens to everyone. I go, no, it doesn't. It doesn't happen to everyone. And if you've been sexually traumatized as a child, that would explain my deep connection to you. That would explain why I fall in love instantly, because for some reason this is what happens. And this is a powerful intoxicant. This is why I'm making this the topic of today's podcast. And I think I may have skipped the order of the precepts. And I do have 2 interviews that I've done with some very interesting people, and another one I'm going to be doing with hopefully with Joanna Harper soon, regarding the ATS, Scamus Framus, and all that kind of stuff. But she's going on retreat, so maybe talk to her in a couple of weeks. But on the really good one I'm going to do on the sexual misconduct, though, is going to be really good. I'm trying to get somebody who's an expert in like tantra and esoteric sexual spirituality, if that's a thing, alternative sexual lifestyles. Let's talk about what misconduct is and isn't, if we're going to talk about a vow, not just from the perspective of not banging your students, but anyways. So the intoxicant of being high in the relationship with the girl, even though we hadn't even done anything, but we spent a lot of time together, there was that. And when I was with her, I didn't want to do anything else. I could have stopped time. I could have just sat and looked at her. She became mesmerizing to me. So I picked her up, or she came into my house, and we jumped in the car to go to the water park, and her boyfriend, her fiance, who she's still living with but was supposed to be, kind of whatever, I don't know. And is that ethical for me to, so we're just hanging out. So she says, well, he rolled me a joint. And I said, well, because she vapes sometimes in the car, and I'm like, I don't care what you do. Get high if you want. I'm driving. You can be high. You don't have to worry about it. But I don't like to get too close to marijuana. It's my drug of choice, and it's fucking legal now in San Diego, in California. So like people are just smoking it. And I went to have a meeting with some guys that I might be doing some work for. And these people are just passing around the vape in the bar, overlooking the ocean, PB. I was like, in Pacific Beach. I was like, well, it's a different world, man. This is definitely a different world than people who, that I knew who went to prison for weed. But yeah, so she I'm like, you can smoke it in the car. I don't care. Like for her, I'll let her do anything she wants. For her, it doesn't matter. Like when I'm in love, when I'm starting to have these feelings, my rules, my boundaries, my sense of self, nothing. Everything does. It's like, what would you give up for heroin? What would you give up for what's it called? Oxycontin or meth or something, right? What would you give up? I'm dog sitting right now, by the way, so that's why this dog he's fine. You always have to deal with kind of the weird idiosyncrasies of these different little doggies. But anyway, so the joint falls apart. So I pull over and I go, Kim, let me see it. And I grabbed it and kind of licked my finger and tried to fix the paper. Well, he didn't obviously roll it right, and it was too wet for me to roll properly. And I tried rolling it while it's still burning and giving it back to her. So there I am holding a burning joint, 20 and a half years sober. And I don't want it. It's not the point. But I know better than to get too comfortable. Because if you hang around the barber shop, you're going to get a fucking haircut eventually. So, and she didn't even know how to smoke it. So I was like, you got to hold it in, So she got it figured out. We made a little Coke can. And she got a couple of hits and got high and put the rest of it away. But I hadn't told anybody that except, I told Tysa, and she hasn't been sober for years now. We got sober together, spent 17 years sober. She doesn't have a problem. She's just one of those people who got sober young, and I don't judge it. I just love her, and we talk every day, and I don't have any judgment or problem with what she does that way. But at first it was weird, but so I thought about that, am I letting myself, and then I'm seeing this morning on Facebook and stuff that people are talking about their sobriety birthdays and so forth today. And I thought, motherfucker, you got to stay sober. You can't take chances. You have to make your recovery number one. So that's why this is the topic for for today's podcast because, I'm going to be 21 years sober on December 4th. And I've been in more pain than I could possibly ever describe to you. I mean, it's fine now, more or less, but I spent a year and a half doubled over on the floor, as my sponsor would have said, chewing the fucking carpet, right? Sorry to cuss so much, but so I just, got to be mindful, got to stay vigilant, got to be aware. What's the vow? And I'm going to talk just a little bit about what the vow is from the perspective of different teachings. So within the sutra level of teachings, and I wrote about this extensively in The Power of Vow, which is available in print, audio, and ebook. And I also have an excerpt from that in How to Find a Spiritual Teacher, just the vows section, just the sutra vows, so the five precepts or the Buddhist lay vows, right? So anyways, you take a vow, and you can take a vow for your life. You can take a vow forever. You can become a monk or a nun. I mean, there's like over 300 vows that you have to keep. And, or, you could try to keep a vow one day at a time or one moment at a time, right? So it makes a really, really big difference when you're trying to quit an addiction if you just be in the present moment and let the wave pass, the compulsion. You have to let the compulsion pass. So I vow to not take intoxicants. Hey, not right now. Like if I had that joint in my hand and thought, hey, Darren, it's a good idea. Oh, here's the part. See, because my disease is so fucking tricky, I forgot to tell you this part. This is the part that's really scary. And I don't want to come off like too cocky about my recovery. This is the part that scared me. I had said to myself, if she says, let's go fuck right now and get high with me, I would have done it. That's the thought that I had. I'm like, if she says, let's get high and make love right now, I would be like, wow, that would be fucking awesome. I mean, I haven't been with a woman in 6 months, and since my ex-wife, right before she reported that she was pregnant. Now she's 5 months pregnant. Apparently not mine, she says. I had a vasectomy, so probably not. But anyways, it's been a while, and I just crave love and I crave affection, really bad, really, really bad. And, I've learned to live in my own skin and be a practitioner and be a yogi and, one day at a time, one moment at a time. But I had that thought. I had that thought that if she says, hey, kiss me, pull over, let's go. Wow, Darren, get your shit together, bro. I'm like, hey, I'm sober a long time. I write books based on my sobriety, based on my spirituality. I do not give myself permission to use drugs. I do not give myself permission to put myself in slippery situations. Not cool. So I want to put it out there. I'm putting the energy out there. I'm releasing the energy, and I'm letting everyone know that this is still the struggle. I was watching Jack Grisham this morning. He has a little, and if you don't know Jack, he was the main singer for this punk band TSOL. I don't really know the music, but I knew him when I got when I was in grad school in Long Beach. He had just come into recovery a couple years. He was always an interesting guy. Well, he has some kind of like 12-step life thing that he talks to people. Lots of people like listening to Jack, but I can only take so much. But he was talking about, hey, am I better than I was? Yeah. Am I still flawed? Yeah. And that's how it is for us in recovery, But let's not be so flawed that that's our whole self-identity. Let's not remain so broken that we can never be fixed. Let's try to own our own magnificence. Let's try to be, and I'm writing about this in the Yoga of Being a Badass, and I haven't really fully articulated it yet, but there is this sense from a Christian orientation of not ever being good enough, of being a sinner, and not ever being capable of aspiring to anything, and of giving up your power, and of not having the responsibility to transcend the world, but to be a victim of the world, to be dependent on. And so my orientation to higher power is oriented really based on the Hermetic magic that I've been studying for like, I don't know, about a year and a half or so. But really, I've dabbled in it for a long time, but been working with it, and I practice daily for various things that are pretty powerful. And I think I did give references to that in the Yoga of Self-Compassion in the resources section. But the whole idea, and I spoke also with this gal, Lauren Wallet, over the podcast. She's a witch in recovery. I think that was I'm guessing it was episode 33 or 32, but you can check the podcast. It was a good episode. Got a lot of downloads on that one. And by the way, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting this ongoing for a decade. I'm doing it weekly, as you can see, and I love it. I'm going to keep doing it, and it's great. But the idea, and this started, and I'll do more about this later, but this started with following the Kabbalah and just following it started with the Tarot. The Tarot led me to Paul Foster Case led me to the Kabbalah led me to Golden Dawn led me, etc. And no, I'm not a Crowley person, but I follow this stuff and I do some practice, and this is about empowering. This is about self-empowerment, and the yoga of being a badass is about self-empowerment. So that's why when I woke up this morning and I was just fucked. I mean, I was literally laying in somebody's arms, sobbing completely deepest tears you can imagine, uncontrollably. And I opened my eyes and I went, Darren, Jesus Christ, man, how are you going to be a badass? Get up. What would a badass do? So I got up and I did 100 jumping jacks, 3 sets, burpees, push-ups, mountain climbers, some kickboxing, some boxing, ran to get my car, and I started doing some spiritual practice, and I lit my sage, and my shaman song came to me. It's on Instagram if you want to hear it. Again, it's at the beginning of this podcast too. So I'd been waiting for years. My shaman, Rosemary Beam, taught me that, this, when you start your practice, you open the 4 directions, and you get in your journey, your song or your melody or something is revealed to you, and I never got it. But when I was up on the mountain with the shamans on the San Pedro journey not too long ago, in June, he was singing and we were singing, and it was Mother Jesus. It was, wow. That was a very life-transforming experience, and more on that later. And if I have the time and money, I'm going to do the plant medicine ceremony in maybe in November with them, because those shamans are real and very, very, very good people. So very good guides. But man, you're on your own. Your journey is your own. And anyways, so I did that. Opening up the 4 directions, and the song came to me from wherever songs come from, and that's my song now. Hey 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 hey. And I don't know, honestly, if I borrowed that from somebody, if that's what we did on the mountain that time, if it's really mine, I don't know, but that's it. That's what it's going to be going forward. That's your shaman song, and that's the power. Let's be shamans. My teacher was a shaman and a Tibetan doctor, and he studied under Changchub Rigzin Dorje, his teacher, who was, as I have mentioned, as I talked about, I think, in How to Find a Spiritual Teacher, who was not educated, actually illiterate, couldn't read or write, but was a realized Dzogchen master. So that's shamanism. In a sense, you have the Bonpo tradition in Tibetan Buddhism. You have the indigenous healers. You have the people who practice with the elements and the medicines and the things that grow and the combinations that come, and they have visions and of how to put things together and what to do. So let's be shamans. Every My old sponsor, John Carney, used to say, every serious thought is a prayer, quoting Chuck Chamberlain from A New Pair of Glasses. And every moment is sacred prayer. The moments of holding on and the moments of letting go. So that's where my head's at today. 25 minutes of my monologue. Thanks for listening. I vow to not take intoxicants. Whether that's a young lady with sexual trauma history who has a boyfriend, or the weed that she's smoking, or, do you know what I mean? Or whatever my own self-indulgences are, you know. All right, so I'm going to get back to writing. I wanted to do the podcast for today. I've got some really cool stuff. I got a gal that I met online that I actually am friends with on Facebook. I didn't realize that we actually have the same teacher. Ella, modern cosmic woman. She's cool. Wow, she's a healer, and we did a good podcast. So I'm going to put that out soon. And you guys, do me a favor. Go grab these books. They're a couple dollars each. The Yoga of Self-Compassion on Amazon. It's $2.99. Leave a review for me, please. We rely on you as writers. I mean, our society doesn't really, unless you're like a John Grisham or something, you don't get to make a good living. I mean, if you're Deepak, do you know that Deepak makes $50,000 a month on that book about Buddha? $50,000 a month. That's not to mention his other income. So I'd just like to survive. So anyways, if you can grab the books, leave reviews, share and like, that would be awesome. Follow me on Instagram, 12-Step Buddhist. The second book in the Yoga of Transformation series is The Yoga of Letting Go, how to deal with grief and loss. Man, tell you what, we all got to do it. You might as well face it. And working on the third one, The Yoga of Being a Badass. So I had a goal to have that out October 1st, 2018. We'll see. I got deep into Julius Evola and some tantras that were translated in 1913. So I don't know. I got to maybe pause that for a minute and go back to my writing. But either way, I'm working on it, and it's going to be good. The 12-Step Buddhist 10-year anniversary edition is going to be underway. That will be out next year. And Compassionate Recovery, I will have out as soon as somebody buys it or what. But the proposal is out there. All right. So thanks a lot, you guys. Appreciate you listening. Remember that you can keep the vow for a moment. You can keep the vow for an hour or a day. You can keep the vow for a lifetime or many lifetimes. The importance is to never give up and to always have your conviction, and that way you won't wind up, hopefully, with a conviction. All right. Peace out, y'all, and namaste.